Hello everyone who's watching this video. My name is Tigran and welcome to Recursion. What is recursion? Recursion is a repeating function or a loop which keeps going and going while your variable satisfies the condition. Let's begin with an example. So assume you want to reap the apples from the apple tree. You are looking at the tree. If there are apples on the tree, you'll reap one and look again if there is another apple on the tree, and keep going until there are no more apples on the tree. So this is how the recursion works. You are reaping the apples from the tree until there are no more apples on the tree. So here's another example. You are eating, and if you are still hungry, you will eat more. Otherwise, you will stop eating. So this is another example of recursion. If you are still hungry, you will eat, and if you are not hungry, so your variable hunger doesn't satisfy the conditional anymore, you will stop eating. So the recursion keeps doing the same thing over and over again while the value of your conditional is true. I think now you understand what recursion is, and now I will explain the recursion in programming. And I will need the help of my magic whiteboard. Here you are, baby. So let me write a simple function which will return you numbers from 10 to 1. So here we can see a function which is named f. Remember, f is not a good name, this is just an example. And it takes a variable n. Inside the console it will print n and return this f function with a variable n minus 1. So it will go here again, and instead of n, it will take n minus 1. So now if we call this function f with 10, we will get console log 10 and return f9. So here we will get 9, console log 9, return 8, and again and again. But this recursion doesn't have a limit, so it is an endless loop. To make a recursion stop somewhere, we need to do this. Now we have if n is equal to 0, return empty string. So when n is equal to 0, and the program will read this code here, return empty string. It will see return and it will leave this function. So it will break recursion and keep going. But there is a problem. If our variable is not an integer or it is smaller than 0, this conditional will never be true, so it will again become an endless loop. So the best way to avoid this is, instead of doing n is equal to 0, write n is smaller than or equal to 0. So now if your variable is 10.5, it will reach minus 0.5. This conditional will become true, it will return an empty string and leave the function. So this is how you break recursion. But there's another problem. If your variable is not a number and it is, let's say, string, this function will return errors because this conditional will never be true and it will return your string minus 1. So you will just get a bunch of errors. So to avoid this kind of problems, you need to do this. You can use the code typeof. This code typeof checks the type of your variable. It can have values like number, string, boolean value, or etc. So now you can write if type of n is equal to number, then do everything that's written here, which is the recursion. Else it will return print a number. So now this function will only run if you print number and if the number is bigger than 0. Now let me write another recursion code. I think you all know what factorial is. It's when you say n factorial, you will get n times n minus 1 times n minus 2 and so on until 1. So let's write a function which will return the factorial of your input. So here is our code. We have a const factorial. It is a function with an input n. And if type of n is a number, then do everything here. So if n is smaller than or equal to 0, return empty string and leave the function. And const result is n times factorial, so this function with input n minus 1. And this will keep going while n is bigger than 0, and when it reaches 0 or it becomes smaller than 0, you will get result, so return result. So this is how you get factorial of a number in programming with recursion. By the way, if you have some function a which has two inputs, x and y, you can still use recursion by using code a x minus 1 and x y plus 1. So it doesn't matter how many inputs you have, you can still use recursion. And you can also use x and y plus 1. So x will not be changed while y will always increase by 1 until some condition becomes false. So this is how we use recursion in programming. And you can use not just one recursion in a function, you can use 5, 10 or as many recursions you want. It depends on what function you want to write. So thank you everyone so much for watching. I think you know what recursion is, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.